Hello and welcome to our podcast. My name is Natasha.
And my name's Lauren.
Join us as we discuss all things Neighbours.
And its unfinished business. Hello everyone, thank you for joining us for a new episode.
Yes, thank you. We have quite an exciting episode for you this week.
We do indeed, yes. We are going to be discussing the new episodes, of course, as usual. Plus, we have a very special guest joining us today.
I'm so excited about this one. Alan Fletcher, aka Soap Dad, Karl Kennedy, will be joining us later on the show. But first, let's discuss the latest episodes. What did you think about them, Lauren?
God, I mean, where do I start? Obviously, so going back 2 weeks now, we have obviously seen Toadie and Mel have their big kiss. And in the start of the episode after that, they're in the house. And you just see Toadie being like, almost like, what the fuck has just happened? He obviously realizes that he's made a mistake and runs back to like his house, where he's actually confronted by Therese because she comes back with the plaque that she's found with Paul. And you can see he's like wants to tell her, but then things keep happening where he can't get, the words out, kind of thing. Yeah, so obviously they go to the lion event, and unfortunately Holly's radio is left on when she's talking to Mel.
Yeah.
Byron is stood by Toadie and Therese, and Therese overhears that not only has Toadie and Mel kissed, they've in fact slept together, which was a bit of a shock because I thought it was just a kiss.
Well,
Turns out
one thing led to another.
Yeah. So we see this dramatic thing where Therese disappears or whatever, and Toadie's obviously left in utter dismay and is in where does he go? Harold's, the waterhole. He goes somewhere and is just like, what the fuck have I done, basically. Yeah. We'll go on further from that, but obviously, what did you think about that whole, like, the way she found out and the aftermath?
I mean, I didn't see that coming. I didn't think that we would find out as soon, like Therese would find out as soon as she did. I thought it was going to be a more of an affair situation as opposed to like a one night stand thing. I mean, obviously, the latest episodes, we'll probably talk about that, but they're going to make it hard for Mel and Toadie to get back together properly. I think it's going to be still a long
thing.
Yeah, it's just, they're going to drag it out. But I think that Therese and Toadie, I'm not sure they're going to be able to survive from this. They haven't been together very long. They don't have much history, as opposed to maybe Mel. So, and we know they don't have much chemistry either. So yeah, I don't think that it's gonna, I think they're gonna divorce.
Yeah.
But Mel's kind of gone now. She's not really interested in pursuing it.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, we'll get on to Paul like a little bit later because he obviously comes into the mix here a little bit. But Toadie and Mel have that big argument outside, don't they? And Toadie's, like saying to Mel, it was a mistake. Just a bit like, but was it though? You've realized it was a mistake because you're, the woman that you married is so hurt by what you've done, but like deep down, and he says it himself, like he was just trying to, there were some feelings there that he suppose needed to challenge, maybe, and see if it was something more, I suppose.
But did he need to though? Like, because what's actually happened now is that he was so confused, and then he's gone, right, okay, I want to be with Therese. And then Therese is kind of like, well, no, I don't want to even think about this right now. Like, no. And I don't know, the fact that he's gone away now,
Yeah,
is that really gonna help the situation?
probably not.
Um, and I don't know. I don't think that's, and again, I just don't think he's being honest with his feelings. What he really should be doing is, instead of going to see Callum, although he's entitled to see Callum, I mean, I'd love to see Callum as well because I do miss him.
Yeah.
But like, why don't you go to therapy?
Mm,
Why didn't you actually work out why you did this?
mm,
If you are over Mel, like you say you are, then why have you done that? Why are
yeah,
you drawn to her?
but I don't. Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? What I really liked was that uh Nell going to Ray's in the hotel and being like, you know, um obviously being completely disappointed with her father for, what he's done, but actually almost apologizing to Ray's, being like, I treated you so badly at the start, but all you've done is been there for us. Whereas Mel has just, worked her way back in and tried to separate you two. So she's actually seen Mel for, like, what she is, and is supporting Therese. And that was really nice, I thought, because yeah, like we said, like, if, a few months back, she was giving her
Mm,
such a hard time,
mm.
being, because of Mel, and it's just like, yeah, so that was really sweet.
But it's
Um,
kind of Nell's first taste of what it's like to be an adult,
mm,
and how complex things can get. And it's not so clear cut as, or just don't get with her, or, she understands that, her dad might have feelings for Mel still. There might be unresolved issues there. And I think that's also why she's kind of, if you see towards the last few episodes, like it's almost like she has forgiven him. Like
yeah,
she can't forget the fact that he's done that and he's done something really wrong. But at the end of the day, it's her dad.
mm,
Um, and you know, rightly so. She's gone to. I think she has given him a bit of a hard time, but at the same time, it's also Mel sniffing
yeah,
around. And if
yeah.
Mel cared about the kids as much as she says she does, then why have you done that to us?
Yeah, and she does in the last few episodes, says to Mel, doesn't she? Like, as far as I'm concerned, like, I
Hmm.
don't want you in my life anymore, kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
Obviously we see Hugo unfortunately get kidnapped by the
Oh yeah.
um and I was all like, oh, of course. He gets kidnapped by the gang, so then Therese and Toadie have to then come back together and become a family unit again. So you're there thinking, well, in the pub, Toadie's really desperate to, go and help, and Therese is like, no, you need to calm down. And you're like, well, is this it then? Was that all it was? Are they just going to get back together again after this? But obviously, now we've seen, obviously, she's like, no, I need more time. And he says, there's a phrase that he says. What does he say? He says something to her, and she's like, don't say that. Brad used to say that to me.
Oh yeah. You're
I
it for me.
saw it for me. Yeah, that was it. And she's like, don't say that. Brad used to say that to
I mean,
me.
did he used to say that?
I don't know. I think, but it was
I
just like,
can I can imagine him saying it.
yeah. Um, yeah, so before obviously they've left to go to America, Toadie obviously goes back to the campsite where supposedly they hooked up for the first time. Um because it was interesting to hear that story, because we were always like, oh, how did they get together? And apparently it was Wendy and Andrew had organized a camping trip for them all, um because they're both getting over their exes, and then they ended up getting
Yeah.
together.
I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah, and then of course, randomly, Mel then turns up and is like, I've seen Therese leave. And it's like, so you thought you'd go
Mm,
in his place? And obviously that's where it draws the line with Nell, because she's like, I told you that in confidence, and you've just gone and found him. But
mhm.
obviously Cody is there going, no, you know, um, I've given you false hope, you know, I didn't mean any of that, but I'm not convinced by it. Not convinced at
Mm,
all.
mm.
Yeah, so now they've gone to America, but we'll see. Therese has gone to Adelaide. We'll see what happens next. Um, so Paul. Now, I've seen a bit of progress with Paul this week. Obviously, Paul was talking about the lengths that he's gone to help Therese and is really trying to rub Toadie up the wrong way at the start of the 2 weeks. And inevitably, Therese runs to Paul, or Paul runs to her when in crisis. And there's a particular look that he has on his face when he walks to the door and that he looks at her. Is it that he has this like concerned look? He's like, and then it's like, oh, Therese. And he does it whenever there's something that happens. He has this certain look that he does to people that are like he cares about.
Mhm.
And I was just, and he says something. What does he say? He says, "You deserve so much better than the both of us." And I was like, has Paul finally moved on?
No, I
Because
think it's just going back to the reason why he left her at the altar.
yeah, because he says, doesn't he? He says,
Mhm.
I
And it's frustrating because
yeah,
it's like, why are you standing firm to that? And why do you think that, why can't you try and be a better man for Therese? You can do it. You can fill those boots,
mm.
but why are you not?
I do think out of all of the relationships that he's been in, Therese is the only one that actually tamed him for a
Mhm,
period of time. He
mhm,
was definitely a much better person when he was with her.
mhm, mhm.
Um, yeah, and I think it's great now that he's become um what's the word I'm looking for? That he started liking what Krista's been doing. And obviously that's winding Chelsea up the wrong way. Um and then
I really like that because then that's the bridge between Leo
yeah, and you see him
and
coming and
it's
yeah,
lovely.
yeah, and he'd be like, thank you and hopes to see kind of Abigail again. Um Going back to what I was saying about, do we think Paul's moved on? We see him then quiz Mel over what happened and
Mhm,
actually almost trying to convince her to try and get back with Toadie. And I was like, oh, that's obviously for his own gains then.
mhm, mhm,
Um, but yeah, and he tells obviously Therese to go to Adelaide, have some space. Um, but all in the meantime, Paul is distracted by the fact Therese has finally seen that Paul has always had her best interests at heart.
mhm,
And it's just kind of like you can see the development there, and as in like, or maybe those two will get back together that way in a non let's have an affair way. Like Mel and Toadie will be the affairies and they'll
mhm, mhm,
end up divorcing, or sorry, Toadie will end up divorcing Therese, and that
mhm,
gives Therese an opportunity to
mhm.
get back with Paul, doesn't it?
I don't think Therese will cheat on Toadie.
No.
I saw on one of the Facebook groups someone say that why are we giving Toadie such a hard time when Therese has cheated? Um, and I was kind of like, well, if she did cheat, it was because the relationship wasn't actually that solid. She never cheated on Brad,
No.
her marriage. Um, there was a little bit with Leo, and I think she cheated on Leo when she was dating Leo with Paul.
She cheated on Gary with Paul.
Yeah. But when you look at it, you're kind of like, well, was it really that serious?
Yeah.
Whereas with Brad, there was no cheating.
Mm,
So I just think, is she worse than Paul? Worse than Toadie? I
yeah.
don't think so.
No.
And the thing is that actually now with what's happened, Toadie's worse than Paul.
Mm,
So it's like, well, you might as well be with Paul if you
yeah.
love Paul and to put up with his bullshit all the time. But he's not going to cheat on you. I don't
Mm,
think he would ever cheat on her.
no.
Because he knows that that would be it. Because she's
Yeah.
so like up there when it comes to cheating. I mean, look what Brad did to her with Lauren.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if they do get back together, then it's probably going to be for the last time. Because if Paul fucks up, then
That's it.
that's it.
Mm. So talking of Paul, we've got Chelsea. Now
Hmm.
she's very disappointed to see that obviously Therese and Paul are together a lot this week. And obviously she's tried to obviously undermine Krista and turn Paul against her. Obviously to no avail, because we've seen Paul actually really likes Krista now.
Mhm.
And Chelsea has become obviously very, very jealous. And she actually is not willing to listen to Krista's ideas. But when Krista says, "Oh, actually, well, I'll go above you then. I'll just go straight to Paul," she obviously comes back to her and says, "Well, oh, actually, no, no, just refine your ideas, and then maybe we'll look at them." And obviously, it's all a ploy to try and impress Paul. Um, she also then tries to steal one of Krista's ideas and palm it off her as her own. The one thing that I was like, for fuck's sake, you've gone too far now, and actually it infuriates Paul is she obviously fakes that she's heard a call from has had a call from the lawyers in regards to the will. Um and obviously this has then prompted Paul to then go in and change his will.
Mhm.
Um but she obviously overhears this conversation and thinks, well, I don't think I'm going to get anything out of this. So she obviously then sees her screw up her contraceptive pill,
Mhm.
an ovulation calendar, and you're like, oh my God, you now want to trap this man with a pregnancy. Like, what the fuck? Um, yeah, so she obviously tries to seduce him in the sauna, get pregnant. Um, but then the thing after that is Paul has then um basically told Chelsea that this is just a bit of fun to him
Mhm.
and it's nothing serious. Um, yeah, so that's an interesting one.
mean I mean, you gotta give it to the actress, she's good.
Yeah.
'Cause she's such a wind up.
Mm.
Um, I mean, we always have to have a villain, and I think she's playing it really well. Um, I'm just not sure where this is going. Like, there is no way that Paul can have another kid,
No,
especially at his age. I'm sorry, but how many kids does he have? Like,
don't even
it
know
just
now.
can't. It just can't.
No.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's just going to make her look really desperate, and whether she loses the baby or she pretends that she's pregnant, it's just not working. I can see that happening, but honestly, I don't see Paul with another kid, so I really hope that that doesn't happen.
No, no. Um, so I was going to talk about Aaron and Nicolette and Isla, but there's not really overly massive things to say about them. Just that obviously Aaron started to deal with the fact that David's gone now and they're
Mm,
becoming a little family unit again, which is nice.
mm,
Now, do we need to touch on Mel? Because we've briefly spoken about her. I think the only thing now is that, you know, she Mel has obviously tried to convince Holly that obviously Therese finding out is, you know, the best thing because she can kind of now get her claws in a little bit, can't she? And Holly's like, well, actually, you need to be
mm,
a bit careful there. Um, yeah, I think Mel lies that she is happy Toadie wants to be with Therese. You can see she's just, yeah, she's not telling the truth. And then obviously there's that awkward moment at the party in the last episode
mhm.
where Wendy obviously didn't really want to invite her to the party because it's awkward. She's actually, you know, friends with Therese, and Mel of kind of like overhears it.
But the thing is, I don't really know why she made a big deal about that, because I get that you want to have your loyalties with Therese. I get that, but at the same time, it's a party. You've invited Holly, so Holly wants to bring her along.
Mm,
So I just feel like she didn't have to be that. I don't know. It just, it's just frustrating because, like Mel said, the, I'm one of two consenting adults,
yeah.
and it's like, well, she's not treating Toadie that way.
Mm,
She's treating Mel that way, and why
yeah.
is it? always the other woman that gets the blame, when actually no, Toadie's just as much to blame.
Yeah.
Obviously Therese is giving Toadie a hard time, but why is everyone else giving Mel the hard time?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I thought it was a bit harsh.
I'm not gonna talk about the lay-in because it was funny, but we won't talk about it because there's lots of other things to talk about. So the gang now. The gang obviously confront JJ and Felix. So I'm going to go on to Felix now. So Felix, who's Andrew's brother, Andrew's adopted, but yeah, his brother, obviously warns them off. And then Felix, unfortunately, now has started to teach JJ bad habits. So putting the nail in the car, which obviously Hugo gets kidnapped in. Um, Obviously the gang end up taking Hugo, and obviously the tire blows, and they obviously abandon the car, and Hugo's found well, except fine and stuff. But later you obviously see that Felix um has obviously now sided with Slade, and he's trying to get Slade to rob the building site and sell the tools for money, I suppose. Um, yeah, like he's come out of prison, said that he's gonna be fine and he's gonna be good, and then all of a sudden he's now
Being a bit naughty.
doing dirty like robberies again, and it's just kind of like,
Mm,
like where's this gonna go? What's this?
yeah.
I think it's difficult because I think it leads into the fact that Andrew was saying like he was treated differently as a child. He was always made out to be the bad one, and then he's like, well, yeah, look what happened. I turned out to be the bad one, kind of thing. So just seeing the dynamic between him and
Mm,
um but yeah, so it's either going to go fine, it's going to be a robbery job and they're not going to find out about it,
mm.
or it's going to go very, very wrong and there's going to be some big like drama with like Felix and the building site. Um yeah, I don't know. What do you like feel about Felix and stuff? Like he's holding JJ like very close to close, and then when he's like, "Oh no, no, Slade will leave you alone." He pushes him away again, and then he draws him back. It's like,
Mm.
yeah, do you want to know this kid? Do you not?
I
Like,
mean, I think he does, but he knows he's not the best dad, or if he were able to be a dad,
mm,
he wouldn't be the best dad. He's not the best influence. So I think it's this push pull thing, not feeling worthy, not feeling good enough. But actually, potentially, if he were to actually invest his time as a father into JJ,
mm,
he might actually have something else to live for. Whereas I
mm,
feel like he's a bit lost. That's
yeah,
why he's been in prison. That's why he's come out and he's still like getting involved with things he shouldn't do, because he's lost. And if it's always a comparison between him and Andrew, then the cop,
yeah,
like he's always going to lose. He's
yeah,
always going to lose that kind of, I'm proud of you, um, battle.
mm,
And that's the thing. He needs to find his own way. And yes, he's had a bad start, but he can turn it around. And maybe if it does end up coming out between the news between him and JJ, then he might have something else. Like, I want to do you proud. I want to be a
yeah.
good dad to you. That's the only way I can see it, but it's not looking good when JJ's covering for him.
Oh yeah, forgot that. That was the last thing, wasn't it? JJ at the
Um,
party says he was with me because he
yeah,
tries to give an alibi,
alibi.
obviously for
Yeah,
the Harold's break-in.
and it's like, it's like,
Yeah,
okay, now that he's trying to cover for you, I think you really need to like let the boy know what's going on.
yeah,
Not just about what you've been up to, but like the fact that
you're his dad.
you're his dad.
Yeah. So, talking of Harold's, has now this is odd, isn't it?
I mean, I the thing is, I am not spoiler free, so I tend to watch this, like all of them, like 2 weeks worth in a couple of days,
Yeah,
ready for these episodes when we're recording.
yeah,
And I see all of the comments on the Facebook groups, on Twitter, and what I've been reading about Has. I'm like, what are you saying? And everyone's got their theories,
Yeah.
and it's just bizarre. It's
So
actually bizarre.
so he's always been a bit shady around his family.
Hmm.
Whenever they're mentioned, it's always
I
like,
think he's
"Oh,
been a bit shady anyway, but anyway,
yeah."
never mind.
Now, obviously, Mac has gone ahead and got this award for him, etc., um, which he ends up obviously receiving. But to start off with, he's like, "Well, why would you do that?" And I'm like, "Why would you be funny about somebody wanting to do something nice for you?" Um, they obviously they admit that they love each other. They go down this lovey-dovey thing. It's the first person that she's been in love with since Hendrix. Um, and then obviously Harold gets trashed. Oh, well, I did have to laugh though when he walks in and then Mac walks in behind him and they play that dramatic music. It's the same music that they played on the island when Finn Kelly was going around shooting people with arrows. And I was like, hang on a minute, it's not quite the same. Finn Kelly's killing people, but someone's broken into Harold's and you're playing the same music, like dun dun dun. Like, yeah, it was a bit too dramatic for me. Everyone helps Has clean up, and then yeah, Toady, oh no, what am I doing? That's nothing to do with that. Um, they gets the video of the break-in with this thing saying, "I know the truth about you," and he watches it back, and it's
Him?
him. But
Question mark.
but is it him? Now we know his sister is coming into the show.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's also mention of a brother.
Mhm.
Has he got a twin brother?
Mhm. And
But
as they
I
called it, an
also
evil
like,
twin.
does he smash up the place because he didn't want the award? Like, I don't know.
Or
I'm a bit,
something money, financial related, like he's gonna try and do a dodgy claim,
yeah,
insurance claim.
it's very, very odd. And obviously Andrew is obviously has the police report and Mac's like, well, hang on a minute, I thought you'd already done. So he's trying to cover up something.
Mm,
Uh
yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. I
Odd.
reckon it's going with the twin thing, and we're gonna see a little thing with the twin thing, and it's gonna be. I mean, it's like with the whole D and Andrea
It
thing.
was like, did he like sleepwalk? Did he pass out? Did he do it without realizing he was doing it? But then
Or has he done it on purpose? Because it's that glare in the camera, isn't it, when he looks up,
yeah, and then
as
it
if
says
he knows what he's doing. But
the person who said
if it was an evil twin, he
yeah.
wouldn't necessarily know where the camera was.
Yeah, and the fact that they says, "I know the truth about you," so someone knows that Has was the one that did it.
Mm, yeah,
It's
very
just a bit
odd.
odd. Like, when I first watched it, I was like, "Who's that?" And then I had to look a second time, I was like,
Mm,
"That's
that's
him." Very
I
odd.
mean, I think it's too easy to just be, oh yeah, evil twin. I think there's something dodgy around money. I mean, do we actually know how he came to Erinsborough?
He just appeared with Mac one day, didn't he? She invited him to
You
the
know, we
wedding.
don't actually know his history.
No.
So it could be that he's had a dodgy past and he's fleed, and he doesn't want, which would explain the whole, not wanting to get the award thing,
Mm,
because he doesn't want his face anywhere.
yeah,
you know it might not be necessarily criminal, but maybe he wants to get away from his family. He doesn't want his family knowing. I reckon his family live not too far away,
yeah.
not overseas all the time like he says. um
I think we'll find out when his sister comes in.
yeah, I mean, I think this is frustrating because we've known for a long time that she's been joining. She was announced ages ago.
Yeah,
So it was always kind of like, well, actually, I want to know more about Has, because I think, well, a lot of us do find him a little bit on the shady side before this.
yeah,
Um, especially with the whole Holly Mac thing. It was just all a bit, you're not really a stand-up guy like you make out.
yeah.
And I think we're going to find out more, especially once his sister comes on the scene.
Mm.
More perspective.
Um, yeah, and then just to end it all off, I just wanted to talk about Byron and Sadie, how cute they were at the Lion.
Yeah, but like, I want more.
I
And I
know,
feel like Nicolette needs to badger Byron more
I
and
know.
like find
She
out
was
more
like,
information.
what's going on between
Yeah,
you?
she just kind of mentioned it and then glazed over it. And I'm just like, no, like you need to like push them together.
They're really cute. I was like, you just the way you just kept coming over. I've got this for you, and Nicolette's like, hang on, why have you not got that for me? I'm your sister. Like,
Mm,
it's just really cute, and I do love them together. They're very, very sweet. But
cute.
yes.
And now we are joined by a very special guest, my soap dad, also known as Dr. Karl Kennedy, Alan Fletcher. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
It's an absolute pleasure, guys. I love your work.
Thank you. Yeah, welcome to Neighbours Unfinished Business. We are really, really excited that you've come to join us on our podcast today.
It's a pleasure.
We have lots of questions for you, so we better get started.
Yep.
So the first question, we haven't seen you and Jackie in very many scenes together since the show restarted, and we assume that's because you have both had commitments. But what we'd like to know is what the future looks like for Carl and Susan.
Well, Carl and Susan, of course, have now got some wonderful dynamics going on. First of all, of course, they have a business venture which they are involved with Therese. So there's an enormous amount revolving around that, which is a great story and going to be fun to do. And the other brilliant dynamic, of course, is that we have young Izzy in our house in the form of Holly. And Holly affords us enormous stories, so it's really good, and it's lovely having her there. So we've got an enormous amount to do together, but you are quite right. Unfortunately, because of the when Neighbours was announced that it was coming back, both Jackie and I did have some significant commitments, so we have had some time away from the show and time away from each other, which a lot of people have noticed. But that's all fine. Jackie will be back on your screens very soon, actually.
Good.
Yeah.
So in the latest scenes in the UK, obviously we've seen Carl give Toadie a bit of a hard time over the whole Melanie situation. Now, so what
Yes.
are your thoughts on this situation, and do you think Carl has a leg to stand on with it all?
Well, I think he has got a leg to stand on because, Carl's made plenty of mistakes in his life. But the one thing about Carl is he's prepared to admit to them and he's learnt from them as well. And I think it's only of great value for Toadie that Carl imparts some of his knowledge. Of course, for Toadie, it's not necessarily as helpful as Carl would like to think it is because it is a little infuriating.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So you have your on-screen daughter, Holly, played by the
Yes.
lovely Lucinda, working with you all the time now. How is it working with Lucinda, and how does your relationship differ from when she was younger?
Well, working with Luce is well, it's an absolute joy. I think she's one of the best actors we've got on the cast now. She's absolutely sensational. She had some stuff coming up which will shock you and will really demonstrate to you how extraordinary she is as a talent. And so working with her is a complete joy. She's a spectacularly engaged performer. She's very committed to her role and being inside her role. So it's a joy to do, and we have some wonderful scenes to do. In fact, I've had a lovely time working with her and Lucinda Cowden. The only thing that makes it a little confusing is having two Lucindas on the set at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do love both Lucindas. So if you could have a past character return to Neighbours, who would you like that to be?
Well, clearly, any of the Kennedy children returning, it would be a joy for me. It's wonderful to have them all. We have had the good fortune to have Malcolm back a few times, although the last time he came back, he had Izzy as a girlfriend, which was a bit shocking. But there's been some characters over the years I've always loved, but I've always had a deep affection for Joe Mangle. I always thought that Joe Mangle was a character that very much told the story of Ramsay Street very well in terms of the Aussiness of it and the comedy. I think one of the great aspects of Neighbours is the comedy of the show, and it's so important to it. So having Joe there was always a joy and a blessing for the show.
So we have been joking a lot on the podcast about the fact that Karl hasn't been seen working at the hospital, and instead is seen pottering around the garden a lot, in the back garden.
Yes.
So is he still working at the hospital, or is he supposed to be retired or semi-retired? He seems to have quite a lot of time off.
Yeah, he hasn't been at the hospital a great deal that you've seen. That's true. Although, of course, a lot of what happens in Erinsborough happens off screen. No, but the thing is that Carl's kind of been slightly usurped at the hospital because, of course, Remy is there now and proving herself to be quite a brilliant doctor. So I think Carl's, rather enjoying the fact that he can take a bit of time off. I mean, he has actually got future plans which won't be involving the hospital. So, I mean, let's face it, he's got his hands full dealing with the loose enders. So he really can't afford to leave the house.
No, true, very true. So are there any storylines that you've really hated over the years, like any sort of scenes that you regret doing, or any that have kind of just made you like cringe a little bit?
Oh, there's nothing I regret doing. Certainly not. I mean, our job as actors is to actually give a truth and a sense of reality to everything we're asked to do, and that's a great challenge. And so that's what makes acting such an exciting job to do. I was once given some stories where Carl was working for a pharmaceutical company when he was taking one of his breaks from medicine, and he discovered the pharmaceutical company was palming off expired goods to third world countries, and so he did a kind of a espionage deep dive into their company and got himself entangled in all this. And I just thought to myself, this doesn't seem very Carl, and it certainly doesn't seem very Neighbours to me. So there have been times where I felt like the story didn't suit the character, but you just throw yourself into it and do it and enjoy it and take it for what it is. And if you look at it back and sort of go, yeah, I'm not sure if that worked, then you'd actually just get cross with yourself because it's our job to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you could write Karl's next big storyline, what would that look like?
I think it's basically. I have yet to sell it to the writers, but I think that it's time for Karl to have a massive, massive #1 music hit.
Oh my God.
Maybe
Love
Karl
that.
Kennedy. Maybe Karl Kennedy needs to write the Christmas #1 in the UK.
And then you'll get lots of time off because he'll be off touring, right?
Well, yeah, right, exactly. I'll be more time to spend in the garden.
I love that. I love that. So you've done quite a few sort of special episodes, like in London over the years.
Yeah.
Which one has been your favourite London episode?
Oh, without question, marrying Susan again on the Thames, and Lizzie's baby dropping at the same wedding. I mean, there's nothing beats drama on that level. Plus, of course, it was very exciting to be in London because the show was so popular at the time, and we had all those wonderful guest characters like Parky and Julian Clary and so forth on the show. Yeah, it was just that whole period was joyous. I was there with my two best mates, in Jackie Woodburn and Natalie Bassingthwaite. I don't think anything will ever surpass that. Actually, it was pretty arduous shooting in the UK because, of course, it's frantic and you've only got a skeleton crew. But we managed it, and I look back at those episodes with enormous fondness.
We love them.
Yeah.
So you'll be celebrating your 30th anniversary working with Neighbours in September.
Yeah. Yes, actually, I think it actually happens in August. Jackie's very good on these dates. I mean, I always brag about the fact that I started Neighbours a week earlier than her because I did location with Billy in the same block. So, I always like to remind her that I have actually been on Neighbours longer than she has. Yes, but it is some stage in August, and Jackie will be confident about the date. Of course, we did have the break in filming, but really, I mean, anniversaries still, I think, still hold because we're off on breaks from filming anyway. So, it's quite an extraordinary thing. I would never have imagined it could possibly have ever happened, but it's coming up quick.
It's amazing. I mean, you've actually done more than Stefan has. Because he's actually
Oh,
been total
yes.
28 years.
Oh, Stefan's, yes, the insignificant player.
So yeah, you're an absolute veteran on the show, not to mention all the shows you were in before Neighbours. So what advice would you give to those breaking through into the acting world?
Well, I think that the best advice I could give them is to act as often as possible, and basically, acting is a craft that you develop by repeatedly working with people and working, with other people, and so if you're trying to start out in this business, one of the most important things is to seek out colleagues that you can work with and improvise with, and look at scripts together. Um, work on work on your voice, work on your movement. Yeah, just basically, acting is a lifelong study, and it's not about waiting around for a big break and then hoping you get that. It's about just developing your skills. And I had a wonderful time working in the theatre before I started on Neighbours, as well as some other fantastic TV shows. Neighbours, of course, has been a blessing beyond imagining. When you've got a young family and so forth, to be fully employed for as many years as I have is spectacular. I mean, almost no actors in the world have had the opportunity I've had. Yes, of course, people say, "Oh, yeah, but she's doing the same job over and over again. Isn't that boring?" But Karl Kennedy has evolved so much over the years. It's like I've played like 5 Karl Kennedys, and that's always so much fun to see where he's going to go next.
Yeah, no, definitely. Um, so you've done a few pantomimes over here in the UK in the past.
Mm,
Now,
mm.
what were those like experiences like for you, and would you ever go back into panto again?
Good question. I never say never to anything. I loved my panto times. Some of my best pals in the UK are the people I work with in panto, because you form these bonds that are absolutely indelible. Pantomime is such an incredibly hard work, particularly the shows that there are some of them that have at least 2 days a week where you do 3 shows in the day, which is spectacularly arduous. And so you bond through that sort of difficulty, I suppose,
Mm.
but just the comedy and the gloriousness of pantomime, the silliness of it, and the fun of it and so forth, is the thing that I love doing. And so, yeah, would I do it again? Well, I'm so involved now with my music. It's kind of like, if I was going to be touring around, I'd rather be playing songs, I think. But you never say never.
No,
Never say never.
Someone wants to get me to come along and play the Palladium. I'll do panto at the Palladium. Why not?
yes.
We'd love that.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, so I was starstruck when I first met you, and that was at the Bedford in Balham. Shout out to the Bedford. And I was like, oh my God, this is my soap dad. So have you ever been starstruck meeting anyone before? And if so, who was it?
Well, I was once. I mean, I suppose there's been a couple of times, but I have to say that there was when I was in Panto doing Aladdin. I was in my dressing room and I got a message to say that there was someone to see me at the stage door. And I went down to the stage door, and Jack Wilde was there. Now, he was an actor who played in H.R. Puff and stuff, and then famously he was the Artful Dodger in the original Aladdin, original Oliver movie. And I was beyond starstruck. I mean, here's a man, he was well in, I mean, he was quite elderly, obviously, but he come to see me and to tell me how much he enjoyed my work in the panto. And, I was pretty chuffed about that. And I almost didn't know what to say, but it was quite extraordinary. Yeah.
So Big Brother has started up again in the UK over here. Started last year, and
Mm.
we've got Celebrity Big Brother at the moment. And
Mm.
we know that Ryan did Celebrity Big Brother back in 2013. And
Mm.
we
Yeah,
wondered whether you would ever enter the house if you were offered to do it over here in the UK.
As I say, I never say never, but it is that I must say that I'm not hugely attracted to doing that type of celebrity television. I've done only one real celebrity show, and that was Soap Star Superstar, which is a singing competition, and it was not an enjoyable experience for me. So I'm a little adverse to that type of thing. But, as I say never. People can pick up the phone and ring me anytime, and they know that.
Nice. So can you tell us anything about the show's 40th anniversary celebrations for next year? So obviously there are rumours that something's going to happen. There might be some kind of tour, and that we're going to hear about it very soon. But is there anything that you can tell us?
No, because I'm always the last person to know anything about these things. In fact, I'm hoping you'll ring me and let me know, because you'll find out
We'll
before
tell
I
you.
do.
We'll tell you.
Okay, thank you.
So our final question to you. You're always over here, and UK is your second home. We know
Yeah,
you have
indeed.
a UK and Ireland tour coming up in July. And can you tell us what fans can expect of the tour?
Well, this one's going to be bigger and better than any I've done before. I've got the wonderful Riley Catherall with me. Riley is a sensational musician, and he's releasing new music as well. So you'll be treated to Riley opening the show, and then I'll be doing a couple of sets with the band. Depending on the venue, it'll be a 4-piece or a 5-piece band. Some are small venues, some are larger. We are getting the length and breadth of the country, which is fabulous. But right down to Penzance, in fact, which I've never been to. I've been to Truro, but never Penzance, and right up to Aberdeen at the top and across to Dublin. The thing that's really disappointed a lot of people and disappointed me is I haven't got any Welsh gigs, and it is a UK tour without Wales. That's a bit stupid, isn't it? I've tried very, very hard to get some Welsh venues, but all the dates were basically snapped up by the booking agent before we could get any Wales dates, and also we couldn't really find a Welsh venue to suit the show. So I'm a bit disappointed about that. But we have got some great shows. We're getting across to Gorleston in near Norwich there, and people have begged me to get to Norfolk at some stage. So very happy to be doing that. I just wish I could get everywhere. I think the big highlight is going to be playing the Cavern Club in Liverpool on the 29th of July, which is selling really, really well as well. So got some very exciting gigs, and I think people will have a great time. They will, of course, get a chance to say hello to me at the gig, and we're going to have a fantastic time.
Amazing. So lastly, is there anything that you'd like to, add here for your fans listening in before we go? Is there anything you want to say?
Oh, no, well, other than the fact that, I've been so incredibly supported by people like yourselves, and all my subscribers to my website. They're wonderful and very dear to me. And there's 10,000 people that I'm in regular contact with. And also, I love getting messages from people on social media as well. So if you want to chat to me, please send me a note, send me a message, and I'm always willing to engage and get back to people. So yeah, basically, I do love my interaction with people because it gives me an opportunity to say thank you for supporting me and Neighbours for so long. And keep watching Neighbours, because there's sensational stuff coming.
Exciting.
Right, that's all we've got time for. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on our podcast.
Thanks, Natasha. Thanks, Lauren. It's a great podcast, and all the very best. I'm really looking forward to seeing you when I get over in July as well. Bless you for that.
Thank you so much for spending time and talking to us today. We do, we really, really appreciate you coming on today.
Great pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode, and we hope you've enjoyed our interview with our very special guest, Alan Fletcher.
Till next time, guys. Bye everyone.
See you, everyone.